All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning. And unto the Bayath of Dawadah, the elect house of David that are scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. Okay, this lesson is more so, it's entitled Talkers versus Doers. So, talkers versus doers. So, obviously we all know that a talker is just someone that runs their mouth, but doesn't have no action behind their words. Of course, a doer, they're just gonna do it. There's no need to talk. Just get in there and get it done. So, with that being said, we're gonna start off with, we're gonna start off with the book of James. It's gonna be chapter 1, verse 22. And it says, "But be ye doers of the word, and hearers not hearers only, deceiving your own selves." Okay? So, be a doer of the word. Whatever the word says, do it. In fact, I'll read it in the NLT. James chapter 1, verse 22 in the NLT. But don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are only fooling yourselves. That's pretty much simple and straight to the point right there. Verse 23. "For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass." So basically, it's like looking yourself in the mirror. Verse 24, "For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was." So you see yourself, you walk away, and forget what you look like. Because when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're looking past that physical appearance. You're looking at the inward man. Okay? You're looking at the inward man, who you really are. That's how you examine yourself. You look at your flaws. You look at what's wrong. And you look at what needs to be fixed, so that way things can get back on track. Okay? So, let's see. All right, so let's get verse 25. And he says, "But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed." So, if you do what the Lord's law, statute, and commandment says, and you don't forget what you've heard and what you've been taught, the Most High will bless you for doing it, man. Okay? Obedience has its rewards. And obedience is love. Next, we're going to go to Romans chapter 2, verse 13. Romans 2, verse 13. In fact, let me start at verse 12. Actually, verse 11. "For there is no respect of persons with the power." So Yahweh by Shemel Shai shows no favoritism. Verse 12. "For as many have sinned without law shall also perish without law. And as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law." So when you go off, when you sin, you will be destroyed, even though you never had or never had the Lord's written law. And as for the Israelites, who do have the law, will be judged by the law when they fail to obey it. Okay? Now I'm going to read this in the NLT. Romans 2:12 in the NLT. When the Gentiles sin, and these Gentiles is talking about Israelites, they will be destroyed even though they never had God's written law. And the Jews who do have the law, who do have the power's law, will be judged by that law when they fail to obey it. So even if you don't have the law and you still go off, you'll be destroyed either way, because Yahweh Shem Shai, you being a part of his nation, his people, you're still subject to that law. Whether you never heard it, never had it, you're still part of the nation of Israel, so you're still under that law by oath and blood. And as for those who do have it, they get punished because they fail to obey. Now verse 13, for not the hearers of the law are just before the power, but the doers of the law shall be justified. So if merely listening doesn't make us right with the Most High, but obeying it makes us right in his sight. Okay, so let me get a precept here. Wrong one. This goes into the book of Luke 12. So the book of Luke 12 and 47. And it says, in fact, I'm going to start at verse 46. Let's see. Okay. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 45. Excuse me. Luke 12 and 45. But if that servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink, and to be drunken. 46. The Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him asunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. Okay? So, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, the Lord will come as a thief in the night, meaning he's going to get you when you least expect it. In verse 47, and that servant which knew his Lord's will, and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. In 48, but he that knew not, and did commit things worthy of stripes, shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more. So, if someone who does not know and then does something wrong will be punished only lightly, because out of ignorance. But when someone has been given much, much will be required in return. And when someone has been entrusted with much, even more will be required. So, if you knew, but yet you still didn't do what you're supposed to do, you pretty much just put yourself in the slaughterhouse for that one. So, now we're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 30. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 12. And it says, it is not in heaven that thou shouldest say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it. Verse 13. neither is it beyond the sea, that thou shouldest say, who shall go over the sea for us, and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? Verse 14, but the word is very nigh unto thee, in thy mouth and in thy heart, that thou mayest do it. Okay? So, in other words, that means that Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai's law is not hidden or too hard to reach. Because Moses tells the people of Israel that they do not need someone to go up to heaven or across the sea or across the sea to get the word for them. Instead, the message is clear, accessible, and already close, living in their mouths and hearts so they can actually do it. So, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai's commandments are not mysterious secrets meant only for experts or scholars. The word is in your mouth and in your heart, meaning it should be spoken, memorized, and deeply loved. Okay, it's, rehearsing the righteous acts, because this is how we, get, instill these, laws, statutes, and commandments back into our inward parts. As the scriptures say, I will put you in remembrance, for you once knew this. And so, actionable faith. Knowing the word is not just for thinking, it is given so people have the power to obey and live it out daily. So this is a lifestyle. Okay? So really, ultimately, the Israelites don't have an excuse. And it says here in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verse 1, and Moses called all Israel and said unto them, hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgment which I speak in your ears this day, that ye may learn them and keep and do them. Verse 2, Yahweh, our power, made a covenant with us in Horeb, which is Mount Sinai. Verse 3, Yahweh made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us who are all of us here alive this day. Okay? And verse 4, the Lord Yahweh talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire. Verse 5, I stood between the Lord Yahweh and you at the time, to show you the word of Yahweh, for ye were afraid by reason of the fire, and went not up into the mount, saying, verse 6, I am the Lord Yahweh, thy power, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. Okay? So, going back to verse 3, to hit the point here. The Lord Yahweh made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us who are all of us here alive this day. So, with us who are alive this day, man. Think about that. Who are alive this day. So, don't take this shit for granted, man. Don't take this word for granted, excuse me. Now we're going to go to Galatians chapter 3, verse 11. And it says, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of the power. It is evident, for the just shall live by faith. And the law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. Okay? And that's going to lead right next, going right back to the James 1 and 2, James 2, James the second chapter, which I'm going to get here in a minute. But so this way of faith is very different from the way of the law, which says it is through obeying the law that a person has life. But it is through faith. And we're going to get that right now in James 2 and chapter 2, verse 17. It says, even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. So faith by itself, unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. Okay, so again, talkers, they say they have faith, but where are your deeds? Where are your works that show me that you have the faith? Verse 18, yea, a man say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show you thee my faith, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Now dropping down to verse 20. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? So, okay, if you believe in Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, show it by following his commands. Okay? Obey. That's really it. So that's the difference between a talker and a doer. Faith without deeds, and a doer. Deeds without faith, but you say you have faith, so show it. Okay? So just remember that, man. Like, this covenant was made with us who are alive this day. So show your faith with your works, so that way you continue to live and you be blessed. So Lord willing, that this was edifying to the body and to the few sincere believers and listeners. And with closing, I'd like to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning. And unto the Bayatha Dabada, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. See you in the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharala, Wa Abad Babal, Shalom, Barakatam.